Without further ado, I'd love to introduce our panelists today. Dr. Janina Scarlet is a psychologist and author of Superhero Therapy. She is the author of this comic book, Hunger Action Heroes, in addition to 12 other books and comic books. She is an incredibly prolific author and an incredible psychologist and inspiration to everybody who knows her. Dr. Janina Scarlet. Thom Zahler is the artist of Love and Capes, My Little Pony, and Hunger Action Heroes. Thom also illustrated a comic book for us called Super Kids, teaching mental health skills for kids who are hospitalized. So Thom has been a hero more than once in his work, and Thom, it's great to have you here. Dana Williams is the Director of Marketing and Communications for Feeding San Diego. This work is her brainchild. She has been incredibly innovative in bringing this work to a relatable level so that kids can learn empathy and action at a very early age. So more on that later. Great to have you here, Dana Williams. Jennifer Harris Edstrom has an incredibly powerful nonprofit background. Ms. Edstrom is has been part of many fundraising initiatives in San Diego for many years, and she is also the education consultant for this project, having created a curriculum that will go along with the comic book to teach children to end food insecurity. Thank you so much for your work, Jennifer Edstrom. Allan Lavigne is the costumer who created these incredible pieces of wardrobe. Allan is so well loved in this circle. He is one of the judges for the Comic-Con Masquerade, attended by thousands and thousands of people every year. And his work is living on in this comic book and many other things. Welcome, Allan Lavigne. Alexa Garrity, who is a beautiful actress, is our Demeter. Demeter, sorry, I'm so sorry. I knew that. I'll start again. Alexa Garrity is a beautiful actress and who is portraying our Demeter. She is the center character in Hunger Action Heroes, and she'll be able to tell you more about that, wearing Allan Lavigne's costume. Give it up for Alexa Garrity. And finally, Matthew Munson. He's an actor who's portraying Hunger Halter, and he's a superhero in real life, portraying this and really getting out there and spreading the good news that this comic book can help save so many lives. So welcome, Matthew Munson. All right. So I'm going to start right off by saying when it comes to social change, it's essential that we recognize that we stand with others who have been able to contribute to this work and who we really stand on their shoulders in terms of the innovation of reaching kids through comics for important social change. Dr. Scarlet, I'm wondering if we can discuss some of your own work involving social change and pop culture. Why do you think pop culture and social change make such a natural partnership? And tell us a little bit more about some of your endeavors in this field.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Actually, before I answer that question, I just wanted to acknowledge two more amazing individuals that are very much a part of this work. And those were the incredible students who created these characters. So we have Serena Asensio and Aiden Pryor. And Serena is actually here. Serena and Aiden drew these characters and created them for a contest. And so I just wanted to give them credit for creating these amazing, beloved characters. So thank you so much for doing this incredible work. I am a trauma psychologist, and so I specialize in treating folks with post-traumatic stress disorder. And majority of people have a really difficult time talking about what they're going through. But what I see that time and time again, when we've been through some of the most traumatic things possible, we look for heroes. And a lot of times, looking to fictional characters can give us the vocabulary that we need to express what we're going through, whether it's a trauma of a loss of a loved one or whether it's a trauma of going through food insecurity. Seeing another character that's been through something really, really challenging can help us to express to other people what we're going through, and seeing what this character then does and how maybe either they ask for help or how they help their community can inspire other people to do the same. And so in my work, that's what I do. When I work with clients, I help them to connect with their own figures of pop culture that they look up to help them become their own version of a superhero in real life. And then on my second job, I write books, whether it's graphic novels or comic books, or fiction or nonfiction books, to help folks to find a hero within.
Absolutely wonderful and so much fun, right? Okay, so moving along to a quote from a volunteer at Feeding San Diego who said, "I personally believe that comic books are some of the most inspirational forms of media in the world. As a child, I discovered comic books at a very early age. Superman and Captain America were two of the most influential figures in my entire life and raised me to the man I am today." Thom Zahler, you create characters who do heroic things and who do really good things, exemplifying heroism for themselves and for other people. Tell us about creating these characters, especially for Hunger Action Hero, and how you feel that art can really inspire people to do good.
I'll take the second question first, because reading so much stuff growing up, reading comics, watching movies, I'm lucky enough to have a relentlessly Rockwellian family and great parents that raised me and my brothers. But there's places where there are empty spaces, and there are things that you get from the media that you watch. I remember there being consciously a moment where I was patterning some of how I was interacting with people on the Christopher Reeve Superman, just with his politeness and calmness and things like that. And there is way too much Captain Kirk in me these days. Especially when you go freelance, you need to have that kind of blind confidence where you're like, I'll find a way. So I really got into that. When I'm drawing on characters, I'm either borrowing from other media or people that I know and using them as a template for how the character carries themselves and how they act. Because when you're drawing a book, you also have to, it's not just the words, it's the body position and the body language, the things that they bring to it, the way that they interact with each other, where you can tell that those characters have a relationship and the kindness or the emotion that happens with them. It's one of the things that I had to learn well since I write so many romantic comedy comics, where you're dealing with that level of subtlety with how people interact and just how they stand next to each other, how the space between them is. So yeah, I steal from people I know, mostly.
You gotta steal from the best, everybody does. I'm sure people steal from you, Tom, right? So next, as a way to illustrate these ideas, we'd like to share a case study of how organizations can partner to create and inspire social change. This comic book, Hunger Action Heroes Unite, was just launched by Feeding San Diego and SuperheroIRL, and is a prime example of a way that kids and adults and creators and the whole world, everybody, can learn how to connect together to create social change, and in this case, end food insecurity. This particular comic book is done by Feeding San Diego, as I mentioned, which is a local hunger relief and food rescue organization. So, Dana, I would love for you to tell us more about this comic book, how it came to be, and all of the potential that it holds.
Thank you, Chase, and hi, everyone. So I'm the Director of Marketing and Communication at Feeding San Diego, and the reality is that last year alone, over 49 million people across the United States turned to hunger relief organizations such as Feeding San Diego. We're part of the Feeding America network. And that's happening at the same time that over 38% of all food that is produced in this country goes to waste, the equivalent of 145 billion meals. This is also the equivalent of, it's actually the amount of surplus food that is wasted is over 88 million tons of food, which is the equivalent of $473 billion that we are literally throwing away. And only 2% of that food, of that surplus, actually got donated to organizations like ours last year. The rest literally can end up in the landfills. And unfortunately, food waste is a major contributor to climate change. They say that 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions is attributed to food waste. So food waste is actually one of the best ways that we can try and mitigate climate change. With that all said, it doesn't have to be this way. Our food system is radically inefficient. And at the same time, Feeding San Diego, we see a lot that the stigma associated with asking for help really prevents a lot of people from coming and accessing our services. Or if they come, but they feel really embarrassed and really ashamed. And the reality is that we all need help sometimes. Even superheroes need help sometimes. And so this initiative was really, my desire as not only the role I have at Feeding San Diego, but I'm also a mom. I have 2 young girls that are 14 and 10. And I'm always thinking about how can we inspire the next generation to, first of all, be educated about some important issues that are facing our world, because we all know there's no shortage of them. So how do we inspire people, to kids in particular, to understand some of these complex social issues, and how do we help empower them that we feel that they can be inspired to want to be a part of the solution? So that is really the background of this comic book. And Feeding San Diego, our mission is to end hunger through food rescue. We rescue good food before it goes to waste from farms, manufacturers, grocery stores, retailers like Starbucks. We pick up from over 200 Starbucks every single night of the year here in San Diego County. And we get that food to people facing hunger. We distributed over 35 million meals last year, and 92% of those meals were rescued food. We rescued over 31 million pounds of food from just San Diego County alone. So this problem is vast, but it's also, there's a solution. It's just very logistical based. And so the point is that we wanted to create this comic book as a way to really get to the youth and help inspire them that they can be a hunger action hero too.
That is so incredible. I had no idea of the amount of work that you do for Feeding San Diego. Absolutely phenomenal and so good-hearted. I just have to say we had a launch for the comic book on Wednesday night at the Feeding San Diego headquarters. And every person on your team is so committed and so genuine about their commitment to this work, the importance, the crucial nature of this work. How many of us can imagine being hungry as a way of life? It's a terrible thing to imagine. Some of us have been there, and what incredibly heroic work you're doing, Dana. Tell us about where the book is available and what is the cost for the book and what the proceeds go to, if you
Sure.
would.
So first of all, we've given you all a copy today, and if you didn't get one, please don't leave without one. The book is available for your friends and family on Feeding San Diego's website, feedingsandiego.org. It's $6.99, which is actually the equivalent of 14 meals. Every dollar donated to Feeding San Diego equates to 2 meals. So yes, we really are excited to be debuting this during Comic-Con. How awesome.
Wonderful.
Food is being wasted all across the U.S. while millions of people are going hungry. The Hunger Action Heroes are here to help because everyone needs help sometimes.
Hi, I'm Hunger Halter.
And I'm Demeter.
Feeding San Diego launched an art contest to engage the community in the fight against hunger and food waste. Nearly 300 students from across San Diego County submitted their vision of a superhero who ends hunger through food rescue. The community voted, and the 2 winners, Hunger, Halter, and Demeter, were brought to life by an acclaimed costume designer.
Where he closes his eyes, he can detect where he needs to be at times to help people in need. And sense when food's about to go to waste. So he swoops in, takes that food, and then gives back to his community.
Demeter's name came from a Greek god named Demeter, and she was the goddess of harvest. She's very kind and strong and very open-minded. I want Demeter to be a role model because we want to reach out to the youth to take action.
Now, the adventures of our Hunger Action Heroes are in the pages of their very own comic book with additional educational resources to inspire kids to join the fight against hunger. You have the power to make a difference. You can be a hunger action hero too.
Crossing out hunger will take all of us.
Learn more at hungeractionheroes.org.
And once again, congratulations to Serena Asensio and Aiden Pryor. So one more thing, Dana, I'd like to ask you. You had mentioned awareness precedes choice, and choice precedes change. So talk to us a little bit about the power of pop culture and the relatability of the comic book.
Yeah, so I am a big believer in that, is that awareness precedes choice, which precedes change. And in order for us to be able to affect change on a wide scale, we first have to inspire people to care. And what better way to tap into the youth than through pop culture? And that's really what we're here today to talk about, is how do we leverage the power of popular culture to inspire change at scale and to inspire social good. And so I'm always telling my kids, know your audience. Our audience are kids in particular, and they're reading comic books. They're watching, cartoons and playing games, and they're very vested in this culture. And so we just wanted to really leverage that and our relationship with Comic-Con Museum. I mean, we're so lucky to have Comic-Con in our backyard and the Comic-Con Museum too.
So exciting. And so tell us a little bit more about that, the initial stages of this project with Comic-Con Museum.
Yes, so as Janina had mentioned, this journey began about 2 years ago. The Comic-Con Museum opened in San Diego in November of 2021, and in December of 2021 I took a tour, and I was just blown away by how cool of a venue it is. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. After I toured with the director of advancement there, and Courtney Gant, and then afterwards, about a week later, my wheels were spinning, and I reached out to her and I said, Courtney, I really think that we could do a really cool partnership together. What if we could put out a contest for kids called the Hunger Action Hero Art Contest, and what if we could invite students from across San Diego County to submit their vision of a hunger action hero who helps to end hunger through food rescue? And what if we could bring these designs to life and debut them at Comic-Con? Anyway, that was really the beginning. And then in March of 2022, we launched the contest. We had over 300 submissions from across San Diego County. We narrowed it down to the top 10, and then the community voted. We had over 4,000 votes from across the county, and it got narrowed down to Demeter and to Halter, and there is where it all began. And so we're so grateful for Serena and for Aiden for submitting such amazing designs and to see where it's gone.
How wonderful, and how great that the community voted to be able to spread the awareness in that way and to get people involved and invested in this. So the person who, in addition to Serena and Aiden, who brought these characters to life, is Allan Lavigne. Allan, what attracted you to this project?
Well, they called me. I had a costume exhibit at the museum. I've done work for Sony Pictures, Warner Brothers, the Lucas, a lot of television production and stuff. And they contacted me, explained to me what the program was. This was a charity, and they were going to submit these drawings. And so I looked at over 300 illustrations that were submitted, and the winners jumped out at me right away. And when they were, there was a panel that voted and selected the winners, but it was no surprise to me who was going to be the best one. And so I had to take those designs, which are sometimes, even in film, they'll give you a design and say, hey, this doesn't exist, but can you make it? And this was the challenge here. These are suggested figures. How's this going to look in real life? You have to reinterpret it for the, to be practical to wear and to be comfortable for the actor. And unlike a film or television studio where you can stop and fix something or whatever, they have to wear these like street clothes, for hours and hours and hours without something falling off or breaking. I wish I could say that's always the case, but we bring repair kits with us anyway. And so started the design. I think spent 2-3 months putting it together. And it was, for the most part, initially long distance fittings. You know, give me your measurements, double check, and cross your fingers. And I really was happy with the way they came out. Demeter's, it was just picture perfect. We got the best actress to play it, and she just looks excellent in that. And with Hunger Halter, we add some more details, some more design elements to make it look more realistic and make it pop and bring it to life. And Matt now, who's playing the part, is doing an excellent job. I really enjoy it. I look forward to it. Dana wants to expand and bring this program to more places in California and around the country. And I think it's a natural, and I can see this particularly with the economy and things are currently, I can see this as being a big and very worthwhile project.
Absolutely, this project could go national so easily, and is so necessary in every city, really. But one interesting thing about San Diego is that San Diego has, if I'm not mistaken, the highest population of immigrants in the country. The highest percentage, could that be? That was something that was told to me by Bettina Hausman, who's the president and CEO of the United Nations Association. And I'll just take this moment to say thank you so much to Bettina and the UN Association San Diego, because she put us in touch with Dana and was very instrumental in this project happening. So big shout out to United Nations Association San Diego. So Allan, in terms of your creating these characters, that is so wonderful, and that is a natural segue into the work that Jen is doing. Jen, can you explain how the book intends to inspire the next generation of hunger relief and food rescue advocates, and how it intends to rally the community around those people who need help with food assistance?
Sure. Well, I think that classrooms are a very, very powerful place to create change makers. And I've always believed that as an educator. And what's exciting about a comic book like this is not only are you able to teach some of the more traditional aspects that you might hit upon at school, literacy, you can touch upon math and science and health and all of the traditional things that you might be covering, a teacher might want to cover during a typical school day. But in addition, there's this opportunity to teach students about advocacy and direct service and indirect service, all of which are really important for making community change. And so we've had a really incredible time creating a free teacher's guide that is available at Feeding San Diego for teachers to use this comic book in their classroom. And the overarching idea is that students will get to create their own hunger action hero identity for themselves. And they'll have the fun of thinking about who they could be as a hunger action hero. They'll band together as a council of heroes, and they will have the opportunity to think about and research what our community needs around hunger relief and food rescue, and then create a plan of attack, and then work together collaboratively in a project-based learning experience to develop that plan, to create a budget, to create a persuasive presentation to convince people that this is a manageable and worthwhile endeavor, and then hopefully eventually to implement that action. And I think it's exciting because not only can it really affect this very important community need, but you're also setting up students and teachers and the greater school community to be change makers. And this is something that could be translated into any issue.
That is so cool. Jen, and well, everyone here, but your enthusiasm is contagious. And I think that's one key. It's one of the things that I've really learned very much from Janina, Dr. Scarlet, is this can be fun. This is really fun. What better way to live your life than to actually be a hero, right? We all love heroes. Why not be one? And so, Jen, the curriculum that you're creating in terms of this comic book and teaching empathy is just brilliant. It's outstanding. Jen, there are 4 main themes in the comic book. you had mentioned. Do you want to go over any of those, or should I?
Oh, sure. We do have 4 big ideas that are sort of standalone activities that students are going to cover, and one of those is how hunger affects the human body, and that's a health theme. We also really wanted students to think about empowerment, and we do that through English language arts, but it's really designed for students to think about how they can be empowered, what empowerment really means, and how they can be empowered. We also, as Dana mentioned, the very, very inefficient food system in our country is a huge problem. And so we're able to tackle that from a science and environmental science standpoint, and really think about our environment and climate change with students. And then finally, a big buzzword right now that you'll hear is social emotional learning. It's so important, and we have a mental health crisis going on. And it's so critical that we teach students how to have these core competencies. And so in this case, we really focus on empathy. And all of those tools are the toolkit that students can use to become a hunger action hero and to implement a plan.
That's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So we want kids to read the book, to learn about the key themes, and to feel empowered to take action around these causes. And just an incidental byproduct of that, as Jen mentioned, we are in the middle of a mental health crisis. And one of the things that can really impact kids' emotional and mental health, and even behavioral health, is the fact that they're doing something good in the world brings endorphins. It breeds serotonin in their bodies and minds, and we're able to get through our own crises so much better when we're able to reach out and help someone through theirs. So the effects of this are just keep on giving, right? It really is a gift that keeps on giving. So this free curriculum is for, it's a guide that is for teachers and parents. And I guess there was one more question here I can ask specifically. What do you think they'll get from reading the book and doing the lessons, these understandings?
Well, it's such an incredible opportunity for students, again, to be empowered and to act with empathy and purpose in their community. And I think teachers have very limited time in the classroom, and so you want to make sure that teachers are able to teach what they must teach that are dictated by the standards, and so we have focused on that. We've provided 10 activities that really run the gamut of every kind of activity that you might want to tackle in the classroom. But in addition, there's this project-based learning that teaches students to work collaboratively and to think critically and to communicate what they're working on. And all of those skills are really important for going out into the community. So I think this is just much broader than just any one area. It's really very interdisciplinary, it's very rich, and it's exciting to think about how this comic book can be such a jumping off point for students to do some really rich and meaningful work.
So well said. That's quite beautiful. So Matthew and Alexa, I just want to jump over here and ask, with your being here at Comic-Con, and you've made other appearances, you were there at the launch on Wednesday night, are kids coming up to you, kids or adults, saying, "Who are you and what are you doing?" And what do you say when they say that?
Yes, kids have been coming up to us, as well as adults. It's been a really good mix of both. And how we answer is we try to stay in character, both with the kids and the adults. And it's been great, without spoilers, reading the comic book. I really do heavily relate with Demeter and just feeling helpless sometimes, seeing the rising food insecurities and different crises that people are going through and not really knowing where to start. And I feel like this book kind of gave us a really good jumping point on how to get involved and how to start. So it's been great to connect with the kids and share just different resources and how to get involved in your community. And even as an adult reading this, I felt like I really could connect to the messages that were being explained as well, without spoilers, but it really does take a village, and it takes a lot of courage to ask for help sometimes, and that's something I can relate to both growing up and now as an adult.
Wonderful.
Chase, as hunger halter, I have the ability to detect hunger where it's happening. and that lets me support Demeter on her quest to end food insecurity. And I think what's great about the comic book, and hopefully I'll have a chance to read it, is not like the stories are really fun. It's sort of an entertaining story about how they go out in the world and address these problems. But there are so many different threads, messages, and lessons that sort of weave their way through the story. So many characters that bring an interesting perspective that even just reading it myself, like it never would have occurred to me that there's a stigma against asking for help or asking for food or going to a food bank. So there's a character in the story that sort of introduces that idea and how to even address it in your community or with people you know. And I think it's things like that where it's like it's a story and a message that's really easy to get behind.
Wonderful. I think it's okay to give a little spoiler because this is such a relatable topic. Dr. Scarlet, can you tell us how you addressed the issue of this initial character in the story not knowing how to help and her journey, her hero's journey to understand how powerful she is?
Sure. So the story starts with Julie, who later, is that okay? Who later becomes Demeter. So Julie is a reporter, and she is frequently reporting about San Diego news, about multiple people who are starving, who are struggling with food insecurity, and she sees some people she knows in the food line, and it breaks her heart, and she wants to help, and she doesn't know how to help as many people as there are. She shares some of her own lunch with a child in line, but she doesn't have enough food for everybody there. And so she's desperate to help, and she, like I think many of us, feels really powerless until she realizes that there is a way to help. And so I'm hoping that you'll check out the comic book because my whole message that I wanted to share through the characters is that everybody is capable of doing something. Every single one of us is capable of taking a step and doing something.
Wonderful. So often we don't know what to do or feel like we can do anything, but this comic book is a really prime example of how there's a place for all of us in making the world better. A really wonderful example of that is Aiden's journey. And Aiden, where are you? Are you here? Aiden is not here. My apologies. Aiden is the creator of Hunger Halter, and he has a really wonderful story, and I'll share some of that here with you now. Dana, can you comment on Aiden's journey and how wonderful it was to find him specifically and elevate his work?
Yeah, so this is a really amazing story, and he and his family gave us permission to share. But when Aiden submitted his character, he also shared with us that he has autism, and he was 14 at the time when he submitted this, and unfortunately he had been bullied a lot growing up as a child in school, and has struggled with a lot of issues. Their family also has needed to rely on services like Feeding San Diego's in the past, but then when they also are in a strong place, they very generously help others. And so he was very excited about submitting for this because he himself has really turned to superheroes and to pop culture to find strength in himself to get through school and to get through, those adolescent years. And so he really exemplifies to me like what this panel is all about is, he has really benefited and found strength through pop culture. And so he submitted for this, and it was really interesting because, again, it was open to the community voting, and at first his design didn't have necessarily that many votes, but then all of a sudden we literally saw it blowing up, and we're like, what the heck is it's like votes, hundreds of votes, thousands. I can't remember exactly how many, but he got in the end quite a lot of votes. And I talked to his mom later, and she is a part of an autism forum on Facebook. And so she posted that her son, who has autism, has entered this contest, and it would mean so much to her if a few people could vote for him. And the autism community really rallied, and they got behind him. They didn't know Aiden, but they voted for him, and it's just such an amazing story. And now to see Aiden and where it's gone, and Serena too, like just to get to know both of them and to bring them along this like really amazing journey, I think has just been so special. So yes, thank you for that. And if I may just add to a little elaborating on what both Jen and Janina mentioned, the face of hunger, it's really hard to identify. You can't look at somebody and know what they're struggling with at home. And that is something that we see all the time. The type of, the populations that Feeding San Diego helps, it's not just people experiencing homelessness, it's also children, families, seniors. We have a lot of military families that live in San Diego, and they're stationed here, but they don't necessarily choose to live here, and the cost of living is so high, and especially some of the lower enlisted, it's really hard to pay for medical bills and groceries and all the things. And so, you can't look at somebody and know that they're struggling. And so one of the things about this book is also that we really want to teach that thread of empathy, and for people to realize that their classmate in school or their neighbor, they might not realize but might be struggling. And so that's something that we're really hoping shines through as part of this, as well as and just also lastly, the concept that we don't need to wait for Superman to save us, or for Captain America, as awesome as they are. Each of us have that within us, and we can be the hero, and we need to step up and be the hero in this world that we're living in. And so whatever the cause is, my kids love the Humane Society, or so whatever the cause is, just know that you can do something to make a difference. So
that is so beautiful, absolutely. And it's a very good point that the face of hunger, the face of homelessness is so diverse. Part of the work that we do with the Heroic Journey Mental Health, the organization that I run, is we create videos for children. And I'll just step in and say really briefly, we were working with this incredible actress this week. She is like the perfect epitome of a host. Just looks like an anchor person that you'd see on TV, and she was talking in one of the videos about food balance, about nutrition, etc. And she said, "Yeah, my family and I were homeless when I was a kid." She just remarked it like that, and I said, "You were?" And she said, "Yes, we didn't have a place to live. We lived in our car." And this is probably one of the last people I know who I would have thought this. And she said, "Oh, I thought I told you." And I said, "No, but thank you for sharing it." There are people who are homeless because they couldn't pay their medical bills. There are people who are hungry because they lost their job because of a really unfair situation, or for any reason, really. There are so many reasons, and it's not really the point at all why. It is only the point that they need our help, and that we can help, right? Mm-hmm. So Dana, I want to ask, what is the next step? Coming full circle, what is the next step in terms of bringing this to schools, and how is this going to roll out?
Yes, well, we feel so lucky to have found Jennifer to work with. She's been amazing and has really designed the curriculum to national standards. So our long-term desire is to roll this out nationally. Those conversations have started, but in the meantime, we want to pilot the book with a few schools probably in San Diego in the fall, where we can get teachers engaged and trying and testing out the curriculum and giving us feedback to tell us what works, what doesn't work. We'll tweak it, and then we'll be able to push it out more. But the beauty of this is that it really can evolve, and we can adjust. We really are trying to direct everyone to our website where they can download the latest content, and they can get their ideas of how they can engage with this. But this is a picture that I took. I did a presentation at a school not too long ago, and we really want to get into the classrooms. And so one of the things we talk about a lot is that it's bananas. It's bananas that in San Diego County, over 350,000 people face hunger, while 38% of all food produced is wasted. And so how do you teach that to a bunch of, I think this was a third grade class. And so I brought 30 bananas, one banana for every child that was in the class. But I only gave out 2/3 of the bananas. So there was a third of the class that didn't get a banana, but I had another 10 bananas up at the front of the classroom, and all of a sudden the hands started shooting up, and they're like, well, I want a banana, they got a banana, why didn't I get a banana? And I said, exactly. Why should, if I have enough bananas for all of you, why am I, not giving one to each of you? And I was trying to make the point that, again, there's enough food in this community, in this country, to feed every person that needs it, and yet that's not what's happening. And so, I think they all of a sudden were like, oh, okay, I get it. So I ended up giving them all a banana at the end of the presentation, but, I wanted to explain in a way that they could understand. And so the point is that, we are excited to work with Jen to roll out this pilot and then really to be able to take it as far as it can go.
That's so wonderful. I just have one other thing to ask before we open it up to questions, and that is, Tom, we haven't heard enough from you because this, I know I haven't only asked you one question, but
it's a rarity, yeah.
Say it again?
It's a rarity for me not to talk, yeah.
Well, go for it. Part of the way that this comic is so engaging is because it's so beautifully drawn. It's so fun. I mean, it's full of wonder. And tell us a little bit about how you created that and the inclusion, the diversity, all of the fun things that are here that are so relatable.
Well, I've been doing comics for about 25 years. I went to a place called the Kubert School in New Jersey, and they taught us how to do everything. So I can write, letter, draw, ink. So it was nice to be able to do the entire project. Also, I'll work on my own crazy deadlines and not complain about it too much. But one of the things that I really appreciated that I got to play around with and experiment with was the crowd scenes, because there are a lot of crowd scenes, and those are not always pleasant to draw. But what you wind up doing is you find the acting for all the characters, and that was, I tried to make sure that there was diversity and different representation in all the characters that you see, but especially in the background characters, because there are characters who are clearly something because that's how the characters were designed. So you try to make sure that people in the background are representing the whole breadth of people. And if you see them interacting, a lot of them have stories between each other. Like, you have to decide why they're standing that way, why they're acting that way. And by doing that all the way around, it's what helps you create a completely filled world. And then sometimes when it's really late at night, you put your friends in it because you need somebody anyway.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great.
My friend Bob apparently needed help with hunger in Florida.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. And frankly, a lot of comic artists, a lot of artists in general are underinvested in those ways. All right, we're going to open it up to questions now. Who would like to ask something of any of our panelists? Yes, please.
My question is more for Dana and Jennifer, but it's kind of open to whoever. You spoke a lot about shame and guilt, and you spoke about feeling of impotence and helplessness in the situation. And you kind of started that in a very micro-focused way with the individual. We have a systemic issue here, and how do you break through that feeling of helplessness? How do you get that person to engage in such a monumental? This is really a monumental task. How do you get that one person?
Sure. I think one of the things that was exciting for me is it's exactly what Janina said earlier, which is sometimes it's really hard to reckon with your own feelings, but when you can relate it to a character that you're reading about, it's much easier to process and think about. And for kids, I think there's this moment without giving another spoiler away, but there's a moment when Demeter, or Julie at that point, sees her friend waiting in line for hunger, and waiting in line for hunger assistance, and Julie's shocked, and she reaches out to her friend, and she says, "Why didn't you tell me you were hungry?" And the friend runs away. And it's, you know, it's a really powerful moment. And for me, when I was working on the lessons, I thought that that was a really great opportunity to have students think about empathy around these two characters before they start thinking about empathy for the person in their classrooms. Like, what would you have said to your friend? Instead of, "Why didn't you tell me?" and being accusatory, what could you have said that was different? And so role-playing that. And I think anytime you can relate something then back to yourself, it becomes a little easier. And so it's like the first step is relating it to the characters in the comic book, and then it's bringing it back to your own experience, and that's what learning's all about. So, seeing yourself in the story. Yeah.
Seeing yourself in the story. That's really beautiful. Who else? Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so actually Chase, through the Pop Culture Hero Coalition, they work very closely with a number of the YMCAs across the country, and so we've already given them a huge number of comic books that they can help distribute through the YMCA's after school programs, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
And then also the translation question is so important. Yes, that is definitely our intention. We just wanted to first figure out how to do it in English, and then if we feel that it has support and people are excited and it's going to be a good tool to have, then we will secure more funding to try and get it then translated into other languages, because we know that that is a very important thing. And that was one of the first questions. We've been talking to the San Diego County Library System, and they definitely asked also about the translation. So that's a great, excellent point. Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Yeah, that's what we need now.
Yes.
Full inclusion. Who else? Anybody else? We just have another couple minutes. Yes, please.
Oh, great. Yes, or I could give you a bunch right now after this. But yeah, so people can go to feedingsandiego.org, and there's a button called Shop. It says Shop on the site, and you can click on that, and you can buy the comic book there. And also, if people in big groups like schools that want to buy, I think 20 or more, there's a discount, a 20% discount, I think, for group bulk orders. But yes, and that's also where you'd find the downloadable curriculum that accompanies the book.
Wonderful. And again, because the comic book was done with a grant, 100% of the proceeds will go to the work of Feeding San Diego.
That's right. It's supporting our hunger relief and food rescue programs.
Quite wonderful. All right. We need to wrap up. Is there any other question, very briefly? All right. You know how I like to end panels? 30 seconds, just like 20 seconds. Oh, stop, we need to. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see you over there. All right, never mind. I was going to say, if anybody had a burning desire or anything else that they'd like to say, Danny, do you want to wrap it up?
Thank you, and happy Comic-Con.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Go to feedingsandiego.org for more information. Thank you so much.